Okay, we're going to Toronto now. Video chat. TSN CFL insider Dave Naylor joins us, and Nick, you're on with Dave, you're on with Nick Lewis and Darren Dupont here this morning. I appreciate the time. It's been far too long, Dave. 4 days into the CFL negotiation window, how do you judge how things have played out? Do you think it's working?
Well, I mean, it's working because I think it's working very similarly to the way it did before. I was talking to a GM 2 days ago, and I asked him essentially the same question you asked me, and he said, it's no different. We're getting calls from agents. We're reaching out to a few guys. Conversations are happening. And that was really the purpose of this, right, was to legitimize what everybody knew was going on and saying, let's not pretend. And I think the other thing is that there is that idea that now you're not going to have a guy go out to market, have to make a decision where maybe you're negotiating with another player at the same position, and all of a sudden it's happening in real time. That guy goes to another team. You don't get the guy you wanted. It's too, he basically allows teams to make more calculated decisions. So that's I think the benefit of it, and the fact that we're not going to have any whispers of tampering, which we had every year because everybody knew that everybody tampered.
So do you feel this was needed, i.e. just a little more legitimacy and less shadiness that they had to put this in? Or could they just continue the way it was?
No, I think they absolutely needed this. And let's be honest, the CFL didn't invent this, right? Other leagues have gone this way because I think the NBA was the first, because of what everybody acknowledged was going on. Because, I mean, even it's impossible to stop tampering because teams aren't necessarily talking to the players. They're talking to the agents, and it's not illegal for a general manager to have a conversation with an agent, and whatever happens in that conversation disappears into thin air. So it was impossible to enforce. And as I say, I would have liked, one of the things I think the CFL really lacks right now is continuity on rosters. I think that's a huge issue. I mean, I was just thinking the other day about Darrell Walker coming to Toronto on a 1-year deal. They had Darrell Walker bobblehead day in Toronto. Well, every kid who got a Darrell Walker bobblehead next year, is he going to be in Toronto? Probably not. All these 1-year contracts are just not good. But I would have liked to see maybe some right to match on free agents or something like that in the CBA. This is, I guess, a bit of a step in that direction, in that while you don't have right to match, you do have certainly time to match, I guess is the way to I would put it under this situation, because you're not going to be caught off guard about a guy walking out the door getting an offer from somebody that you didn't know about.
Dave Naylor, I'm not going to pick your brain for any inside info unless you have some for us this morning. I want your opinion on the Collaros versus Nichols agony the Bombers found themselves in, and do you think they decided on the right guy?
I'm surprised by it, to be honest. And that's no disrespect to Zach Collaros. But, I mean, after he started that first game against Calgary late in the regular season, Farhan Lalji and I phoned around the league to GMs and asked them, what would you pay Collaros? And at the time, we were getting, $250 base plus play time. Some GMs wouldn't touch him, That was the range. And you look what he earned in 4 games. I'm not saying that the Collaros deal is bad or that he can't play. I guess when you had a guy like Matt Nichols, who's basically, might have saved, well, I think a lot of people think he did save people's jobs in Winnipeg when he took over as the starter, who was having a season with a 72.1 completion percentage, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And again, no disrespect to Zach, but if you look at how the Blue Bombers won the Grey Cup, okay, they didn't win it throwing for 390 yards a game. They won it by running the football. They won it by playing spectacular defense, and they won it by not turning the ball over. And I think, Matt Nichols playing the way he was playing this season, they would have won the Grey Cup with him. In fact, I'm not sure there's a quarterback better in the CFL at keeping the football secure than Matt Nichols. So, I was just surprised. And I thought that, Zach Collaros had proven that he could play and he would get another opportunity. I just didn't think Winnipeg was going to choose him over Nichols. And I guess the bottom line is, for so many years they didn't get it done, although Matt Nichols wasn't really the problem if you look at his playoff performances. And this guy did. And that's obviously, when you haven't won the Grey Cup in 29 years, it carries a lot of weight. I hope both guys have successful years bouncing back off of injuries for full seasons. But I'm frankly surprised that the Bombers went that direction. And again, I don't mean that disrespectfully to Zach Collaros.
Well, Dave, we saw your report this morning on Nichols and Toronto. Can he be that guy there? And what's the understanding that you know of? Because, we heard, with McLeod Bethel-Thompson that he wanted some assurance that at least he'd be able to battle for the job. How are things going to play out in Toronto?
Well, I think two things would suggest that while there may be a battle, it's also sometimes a bit of a handicapped battle, if you know what I mean. The one guy's got an advantage. And here's the two things that would tell me that Matt Nichols has an advantage in that competition when training camp rolls around. One, put their resumes side by side. He's been 4.5 years the starting quarterback in Winnipeg. I guess, if you count last year as a half season, 4 full seasons. Got to the playoffs 4 straight years, double-digit victories every year. And I mentioned the stats that he racked up until he was hurt on August the 15th last year. McLeod Bethel-Thompson has been in the league for 3 years, didn't play at all his first year. And the last 2 years has been, again, I don't want to sound disrespectful to the stats he puts up, but there's been some games that weren't close where he put up a lot of numbers. There were 3 wins over the god-awful Ottawa Redblacks of 2019 where he put up some huge numbers. And look, he's done some good things as well. He brought them back against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers from a 20-0 deficit, when they were 0-5 against a 5-0 team. And I think he's certainly made progress and has turned himself into a more than serviceable CFL quarterback. But again, their resumes really aren't comparable. And from what we understand, Nichols is going to get about more than 1.5 times, I believe, in guarantee or in hard money on his contract and better playtime incentives. That's always what you can tell usually. Even if a team says, hey, open competition, this is usually when you look at the guy they paid the most money to, that's the guy who's going to get an opportunity to start. And look, Bethel-Thompson is a competitive guy. He's a lifer, right? He's a guy who's been everywhere, like one of these, 11 stops in the NFL kind of resumes. And, this is still, I think, his best opportunity to get an opportunity to play. But I'll be surprised. The other thing we have to wait and see is Matt Nichols absolutely going to be healthy and ready to start the season? He says he is. His representative says he is. But that's another question that, you can say that in January and February, but we'll see what the reality is. And I'm not suggesting he's being untruthful, but until you're healthy, you're not healthy. So that's the other part of this. But, I expect Nichols to be the day one starter for the Toronto Argonauts.
Lee in Moose Jaw's watching, and he's got a comment. Lee Bellows. He's an old rodeo clown, by the way, Dave. He says, don't you think Zach earned his spot in Winnipeg? It's quite a success story. And maybe Lee wasn't watching when you said Matt Nichols saved guys' jobs. You're right, because O'Shea was going to be gone. I'll be thinking about that point you made for a long time. So I guess short memories in pro football.
Hey, great game, tough business, man. That's what we always say about football.
Exactly. Now, my last point for you is Chris Streveler in Arizona. Fans out here are saying, How does a third-string quarterback in Winnipeg get an NFL deal, but a Bo Levi Mitchell, even a Cody Fajardo, do not? I mean, what's your read on Streveler to the Cardinals?
Well, first of all, Bo Levi Mitchell had 3 NFL offers: Indianapolis, Minnesota, and Denver. Okay, but he didn't get much in the way of guaranteed money. And one of the reasons he could take that deal, or he rejected that deal, and Chris Streveler can take it, is Bo Levi Mitchell had $700,000 sitting on the table in Calgary. And if he doesn't get any guaranteed money on an NFL contract and he gets cut by Labor Day, it cost him $350,000 to go try out in the NFL. So the economics of it weren't as advantageous for Bo Levi Mitchell as it was for Chris Streveler, who's not going to make that kind of money. But I agree, there was some of the same reaction in the SportsCenter newsroom at TSN, like, wait a minute, a backup quarterback in the CFL, a guy who can't be a CFL starter or hasn't proven he's a CFL starter, is getting a contract in the NFL. And I'll say this, and this also applies to the Willie Jefferson thing, because I threw a thing out on Twitter saying, hey, Willie Jefferson's 29. I think that's the only reason he's not in the NFL. And Willie Jefferson and some other people went, what are you, crazy? You're saying he's old? No, I'm not saying that. Here's what I'm saying. The NFL does not recruit the best players in the CFL. That's not who they go after. If they did, Milt Stegall would have been gone after 3 or 4 years in the CFL. He would have been back, or 1 year or 2 in the CFL. He would have been back to the NFL. We can list G-Roy Sound. We can go through all kinds of great CFL players that once they established themselves here did not get a sniff from the NFL, because that's by and large not who the NFL comes after. They come after guys who have youth and athleticism. And what is Chris Streveler? He just turned 25, and he is a physical freak. If you look at his testing times when he came out of college and his pro day, they compare favorably to some of the most athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. And again, if you look around who gets signed year in, year out, youth and athleticism, that's what gets you to the NFL. So Is Chris Streveler the best quarterback in the CFL? Not even close. But he's got an NFL deal, and a lot of better quarterbacks don't, because, and if you look at, again, he's not going to start or compete for playtime with Kyler Murray. But you can certainly see a situation where, they're first and goal from the 8-yard line, and he lines up in the shotgun in the Wildcat and tries to go towards the goal line. And he's bigger and stronger than some of the DBs even in that league. And they want Chris Streveler taking that hit at the goal line, not Kyler Murray. So it'll be interesting to see how they use him, how creatively they can do it. But it's his physical attributes, I think, and again, what they saw in the playtime. The guy does have some moxie, and he did some great things in big games. And I'm surprised, maybe a little bit, that he's got an NFL job, but certainly not shocked.
I appreciate it, the time, my man, and we're following what you're doing, as Darren said, so thanks for fitting us in today.
Hey, my pleasure. Take care, guys. We'll do it again.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.